الاعتدال هو المواجهة بكل أنواع الخطر.
Good afternoon. It's Friday, March the 13th. I'm Yuna Naufal. You're watching the English news on Future Television. Here are today's headlines. Foreign Minister Gibran Bassil confirms reports that the UAE has decided to deport 70 Lebanese individuals. Speaking ahead of the 10th anniversary of the Cedar Revolution on March 14th, Future Movement Chief Saad Hariri says the event will be remembered as a day when the Lebanese achieved victory in the name of freedom. And U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry arrives in Sharm el-Sheikh to meet Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and attend an Egyptian economic conference. Foreign Minister Gibran Bassil is confirming reports that the UAE has decided to deport 70 Lebanese individuals within the next 24 hours. Local media says there were no clear reasons for the deportations, which include Lebanese from various sects. LBC television channel, however, said the majority of those scheduled to be deported are Shias. Dozens of them, who have lived in the UAE for years, were reportedly expelled on suspicion of links with Hezbollah in 2009. Intensive efforts are being made to settle the issue as the UAE hosts more than 100,000 Lebanese workers. Speaking ahead of the Cedar Revolution, Future Movement Chief Saad Hariri says March 14, which is the date that forced the Syrian army to pull out from Lebanon 10 years ago, will be always remembered as a day when the Lebanese achieved victory in the name of freedom and sovereignty. It will also remain a landmark in a country's history. Addressing the issue of Hezbollah, which organized a rally on March 8, 2005 to thank Syria for its support to Lebanon, Hariri said the days of solidarity with Syrian President Bashar Assad's regime are over. Supporting oppressors is not the proper way to combat terrorism, and drawing Lebanon into a neighboring civil war is the easiest way to destroy the Lebanese people's coexistence and lives. He vowed that March 14 followers will not be intimidated by Hezbollah's Iranian-supplied weapons and will not accept to be part of the Iranian empire. The March 14 rally, held in response to a pro-Syrian demonstration on March 8, was the climax in a month-long series of rallies that followed the assassination of Rafiq Hariri, a former Lebanese prime minister, in a massive truck bomb explosion on Valentine's Day 2005. So March 14 is tomorrow. It will commemorate the 10th anniversary of the Cedar Revolution, an event held at Biel. The ceremony, during which the coalition will announce a set of political principles outlining the new agenda and declare the formation of the March 14 National Council in an attempt to re-emphasize its multi-sectarian nature amid rising extremism in the region. Comprising approximately of 300 party officials and independent March 14 figures, the National Council will be governed by an elected body. U.S. Ambassador to Lebanon David Hale says the international community is in full agreement on the need to protect the country from unprecedented turmoil unfolding in the Middle East. Hale's comments come following his meeting with Foreign Minister Gibran Bassil, which focused on the political and security challenges facing the country. Hale claimed that the risk of spillover and terrorism from Syria was not over. In his words.
Well, good morning. I just had a very productive meeting with my friend, Foreign Minister Bassil, and we discussed the continued political and security challenges that Lebanon faces today. Supporting Lebanon's policy of dissociation and helping to insulate Lebanon from the spillover of extremism from Syria are important goals for the United States. Lebanon's role in the global effort to counter violent extremism is key, and Lebanon's example of coexistence contrasts with the barbarism of extremists such as Daesh and al-Nusra, who target Middle Eastern Christians, minorities, women. In fact, all of us are targets. The challenge is complex and multifaceted, but so is our response. And the strategy to counter and destroy such extremism has 5 aspects. In addition to the military effort, there is a global effort to stop the flow of foreign fighters to the area, to cut extremists' finances, to provide humanitarian relief and support to victims, and to counter extremist propaganda. And success requires cooperation across the globe. 62 countries have come together in a coalition to put an end to this threat. Now, here in Lebanon, we have to be sober. The risk of spillover of terrorism and extremism from Syria is not over. And though I think it's very important to emphasize that as you face these security challenges, Lebanon has many strengths. The Army and the security services have the will and the commitment to defend Lebanon and are doing so with courage and determination. Second, the Lebanese nation is united behind the effort to counter violent extremism. And third, you're not alone. You can count on continuous and meaningful support from America and from others to ensure that you have the means to fight. Our common values distinguish us from these barbaric extremists, and these common values are stronger than any false appeal from the extremists. Therefore, we will prevail. And finally, the international community may have differences elsewhere in the region, but we are united in our desire to help Lebanon insulate itself from these external threats and conflicts. Tackling the threats will not be easy, but I am confident that together we can ensure that Daesh will never find safe haven in Lebanon.
Islamic State militants have accepted a pledge of allegiance by Nigerian-grown Boko Haram extremist group, according to a spokesman for ISIS. The Islamic State group's media arm, Al-Furqan, in an audio recording by spokesman Abu Muhammad al-Adnani, said that Boko Haram's pledge of allegiance has been accepted, claiming the caliphate has now expanded to West Africa. Al-Adnani was responding to an audio recording posted online by Boko Haram leader Abu Bakr Sheikha on Saturday that pledged allegiance to ISIS. Boko Haram has been weakened by a multinational force that has dislodged it from a score of northeastern Nigerian towns. But its new Twitter account, increasingly slick and more frequent video messages, and a new media arm all were considered signs that the group is now being helped by ISIS propagandists. Boko Haram killed an estimated 10,000 people last year and is to blame for last April's abduction of more than 275 schoolgirls. Coming up next, Jimmy Kimmel asks President Barack Obama about driving and his dentist. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching Future Television. Iraqi forces battled jihadists making what look increasingly like a last stand in Tikrit, but the ISIS group responded by vowing to expand its caliphate. Thousands of fighters surrounded a few hundred holdout ISIS militants, pounding their positions from the air but treading carefully to avoid the thousands of bombs littering the city center. 2 days after units spearheading Baghdad's biggest anti-ISIS operation yet pushed deep into Tikrit, a police colonel claimed around 50% of the city was now back in government hands. Massively outnumbered, the jihadist defense consists of a network of booby traps, roadside bombs, and snipers through which suicide attackers occasionally ram car bombs into enemy targets. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry arrived in Sharm el-Sheikh to meet Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and attend an Egyptian economic conference. Sisi has been clamoring for U.S. tanks, planes, and other material held up since the military's 2013 coup, but Kerry made no offers of new military assistance. Kerry's hands are tied because the Obama administration is undecided about whether to affirm Egypt's progress on democracy and human rights or issue a national security waiver. It must do one or the other under the 2015 federal budget to unblock hundreds of millions of dollars in military aid for Egypt. Kerry also is meeting on Friday with Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas and Jordan's Sheikh Abdullah II. Speculation is swirling in Russia about the state of Vladimir Putin's health as an unusual spell outside the public eye fuels the rumor mill. On Thursday, the Russian president's spokesman sought to quash such talk, saying in an interview that Putin's health is really perfect. Dmitry Peskov told the Associated Press that Putin has a busy agenda in the coming days, including some international meetings. The 62-year-old Russian leader has largely fallen out of sight for a week since hosting Italian Prime Minister Matteo Renzi on the 5th of March, a highly unusual absence. A Kremlin announcement on Wednesday said that Putin would postpone a trip to Kazakhstan planned for this week, and it set off a flurry of media speculation and online rumors, with some claiming that Putin could be seriously ill. Swedish prosecutors have asked for WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange's approval to question him in London, where he is holed up in the Ecuadorian embassy in a possible breakthrough in the case that has been an impasse for years, according to prosecutors. One of Assange's lawyers said he welcomed the request, but noted concern the process could take time, given the approval was also needed from British and Ecuadorian authorities. Sweden wants to question him on allegations of sexual assault and rape, which he denies. Prosecutors say they were also asking to conduct a DNA test of Assange, who has been stuck inside the South American country's London embassy since June of 2012 to avoid a British extradition to Sweden. A Swedish appeals court late last year upheld a detention order but said prosecutors had not made enough effort, noting the failure of the prosecutors to examine alternative avenues is not in line with their obligation. U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder on Thursday called the shooting of 2 police officers in Ferguson an incident that is heinous and cowardly, and promised to offer any resources of the Department of Justice to aid in the investigation. The 2 officers were shot early on Thursday amid protests following the resignation of the police chief in the Missouri city that became a symbol of racial tensions after a white officer's fatal shooting of an unarmed black 18-year-old. The county police chief said the shooting was unexpected and could have easily killed both men. Police said some suspects had been taken into custody for questioning, but no arrest had yet been made. The shots were fired in front of the police department just as a small crowd of protesters began to break up. For the first time in a long time, late-night host Jimmy Kimmel had as a guest U.S. President Barack Obama, and he asked him about cooking, driving, daylight saving time, and the dentist. Here's the clip.
So, when you're at home, can you run down to the kitchen in your underpants in the middle of the night if you're hungry?
I mean, I could. I don't.
You don't?
No.
Is there someone in the kitchen at all times? Like, if you wanted a sandwich in the night, would you have to wake someone up?
Yeah, I wouldn't wake somebody up to have a sandwich.
You're allowed to go in the refrigerator on your own?
I am. There's a refrigerator and there's silverware.
When was the last time you actually cooked?
Now, it's been a while since
It has been a while.
It has been a while. I won't lie about that.
Do you ever drive?
I cannot drive. I mean, I'm able to drive.
Is it because you don't have a birth certificate?
Exactly. In Kenya, we drive on the other side. Actually, the last time I drove, a former staffer came by, and he comes through the South Lawn, and he's got one of these new electric cars. At the time, they were new.
Yeah.
And he was very excited about it. I said, well, yeah, let's try it out. So I just grab his keys, and we just go out. It's parked right in front. And I start circling the South Lawn. And the Secret Service, no matter what you do, do not let him out. And they were pretty upset.
They call you renegade, right?
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're tooling around in an electric car, topping speeds of 30 miles an hour.
Yeah. I think we have 35. Yeah.
If you have to go to the dentist, do you go to the dentist?
No,
or does
dentist comes to me.
Dentist comes to you. Do you have the chair, the tools, and
you
you
got the
spin
whole
on the
chair.
floor?
Everything is all there.
Everything is there?
Yeah, in the basement. I didn't know. I showed up. I said, I think, I've got a cap that's loose. Sir, here we are.
Do you reset the clocks when daylight saving time happens?
Somebody else does that for me.
Somebody does that for you. Will you get rid of daylight saving time? Or at least get rid of the part where we have to wake up earlier. You can leave the other one.
Well, see, this is a California thing, because you guys are always getting sun.
Yeah?
In the East Coast, you don't mind losing that hour because that's a signal that spring is here.
We only care about ourselves. Hi, I'm Jimmy Kimmel. Are you sad that the video is over? Well, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you will never be sad again, ever.
This marks the end of our bulletin for today. Now for a reminder of our top stories. Foreign Minister Gibran Bassil confirms reports that the UAE has decided to deport 70 Lebanese individuals. Speaking ahead of the 10th anniversary of the Cedar Revolution, Future Movement Chief Saad Hariri says the event will be remembered as a day when the Lebanese achieved victory in the name of freedom. And U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry arrives in Sharm el-Sheikh to meet Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi and attend an Egyptian economic conference. Those are your Friday headlines live on Future Television. Have a nice weekend to all our viewers, and we'll see you tomorrow.